A Texas woman is accused of marrying a man without him even knowing about it.
Listen to this story. So, a Waco woman is facing charges after marrying her ex-boyfriend without him even knowing.
So, many of you may be shocked to know that you could be legally married without even knowing about it. Let's talk about it. Now, before we learn how police unravel this mystery, here's a quick message from the sponsor of this video, Zocdoc. You ever do anything weird, something's off? Your eye's swollen, your neck got a weird pain, or you have a cold that just won't quit. And instead of calling a doctor, you scroll TikTok and YouTube like that's gonna fix it. Or maybe you're just too busy. You think it'll heal on its own. Or you're like, I don't know which doctor to go to. Trust me, I've made every excuse in the book too. But now I use Zocdoc, and it makes things a lot easier. Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high quality in-network doctors and instantly book appointments. We're talking about over 100,000 doctors from across every specialty, from mental health, dental, primary care, urgent care, you name it, they got it. And with Zocdoc, you can filter by insurance, see who's nearby, and check real reviews from verified patients. Now, simply just pick your time slot and boom, appointments usually happen between 24 and 72 hours, sometimes even the same day. Now, full disclosure, I personally use Zocdoc, and the doctor that I go to now, I found on Zocdoc. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to Zocdoc.com/Nate the Lawyer. The link is in the pinned comment or in the description of this video. Now, back to the story. This is Kristen Spearman. She's 36 years old and she lives in the city of Beverly Hills, Texas, not California. It's a couple of miles outside of Waco, Texas, which most people are familiar with. Now, on June 2nd, 2025, Spearman and her then boyfriend, who's 42 years old, applied for a marriage license. Now, to really understand how this scheme occurred, I have to educate you on family law, specifically what it takes to get married in certain states. Now, I'm going to be speaking about the law very broadly and then very specifically to Texas. Now, in Texas, there are two ways that the state recognizes a marriage. You have formal marriages and you have informal marriages. Now, formal marriages are simple. They require first you and your partner go and get a valid marriage license. Now, to get a marriage license, both parties must appear in person with ID. Now, just because you have the marriage license doesn't mean you're married. Now you have to go through part 2, which is a ceremony. Now, the ceremony can be performed by a priest, pastor, or even justice of the peace. Now, after that ceremony is complete with both parties present at the ceremony, then the license is signed and returned to the county clerk's office, which records the marriage for all to see. And at that point, you are legally married. Now, there's also an informal marriage that Texas recognizes, also commonly known as common law marriage. Now, for common law marriage, you can get about the marriage certificate and the ceremony. Only thing you need is two people who are living together and they present the intent to be married. And the law also requires them to hold themselves out publicly as husband and wife, as a married couple. Now, if you check those 3 boxes, then you are officially married informally under Texas law. Now, no matter which way you slice it, either formal or informal marriages, both parties must be present and show intent to be married in both cases. So now that you know all that, let's talk about what happened in this case. See, Kristen Spearman and her boyfriend decided to get married. And the first step on the road to getting married is getting a marriage license. And that's what Kristen and her boyfriend did. They obtained a marriage license.
Well, police say she and her ex had got a marriage license earlier this month, but they broke up after a fight.
He told police that he and Spearman got a marriage license earlier this month, but then broke things off.
So they went through step 1, obtaining a marriage license. But unfortunately, they broke things off before they got to step 2, which is having the ceremony. Kristen wanted to be married to this man, but he broke it off. So how could she still get married? She had the license. She had already gone through step 1. So she decided to go through step 2 alone. Now, the law requires that both parties be there at the ceremony to say, I want to be married to this person. But Kristen was able to trick a priest into marrying her to this man without him being there.
Police say the woman convinced a pastor to officiate the wedding without the man's presence or knowledge.
When I was talking to the lieutenant, I said, I don't think in 23 years I've ever heard of anybody who managed somehow to get married to someone who wasn't present for a ceremony. I've talked to the victim, and he's going through a significant process to try to have to fix this at this point.
So she's done it. She is now married to this guy, but he doesn't know. So what does she do? Well, she then goes and files the marriage license with the state, becomes officially married to this man, and then leaves a copy of the marriage license in a bag on his steps.
Well, police say she and her ex had got a marriage license earlier this month, but they broke up after a fight. Then the woman convinced a pastor to sign them without her ex being there.
So after that, she just filed the license with the county, and police say that her ex found out. This is after she left a gift bag on his doorstep with a copy of the marriage license inside.
So because of this obvious fraud, local officials charged Kristen with third-degree felony stalking.
An unusual wedding in Texas lands the bride in jail.
Kristen Spearman was arrested for third-degree felony stalking. The man claims to have had a relationship with her in the past, but that it had ended before the bizarre wedding there.
So now you may be thinking, hey, this is fraud. Why did they charge her with stalking? Well, they charged her with third-degree felony stalking under Texas law because the authorities are saying she engaged in a pattern of behavior by falsely filing a marriage certificate and sending it to her ex-boyfriend. She did that to cause him emotional distress. Now, even though there were no physical threats, Texas law defines stalking to include actions that would make a reasonable person feel harassed, alarmed, or threatened. And if you or this guy and you find a package in front of your door with a marriage license saying you're legally married to your crazy ex when you didn't go through the ceremony, that would cause someone to feel alarmed and threatened. Now, prosecutors are seeking anywhere between 2 and 10 years in prison if she's convicted of stalking. Now, Kristen then bailed out of jail and was given a protective order saying that she had to stay away from her victim, her ex-boyfriend. So the first question is this marriage valid? But this marriage is obviously invalid because there was no mutual consent and there was no ceremony. The person just wasn't there. So because the law requires that you have a ceremony where both people consent, then a full annulment is proper and this marriage is invalid. Next question is, what about the Reverend? Well, the Reverend is Reverend Williams, and he was fully duped and is fully cooperating with authorities and is even offering to pay the $350 to get the marriage annulled because he made this mistake. Now, Christine's lawyer is probably going to make an argument that they were informally married under common law. In other words, they were living together, they were holding themselves out as being married, they intended to be married, therefore they should be considered married under common law. Now, how successful is she going to be with making this argument? I don't really give it a big chance, but there's a possibility. So let me know how you feel about this in the comment section. How do you feel about them charging her with stalking instead of fraud? What do you think about the possibilities that they could still be married under this idea of an informal or common law marriage? Because that's also a possibility. And do you think that she should get 2 to 10 years in prison? How much time would you give her if you were the judge and she was convicted of this crime? Now, I got to make it very clear, as of right now, she's not guilty of anything. She is innocent until proven guilty, and these are all allegations, but they are damning. Now, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.